Good morning. Welcome to the, December 8th curriculum instruction meeting. I will now call the meeting to order. And I moved my agenda. There we go. Dr. Cuppet, I believe you said there are no public comments.
That is correct. No public comment.
The minutes, Mr. Jay and Ms. Johnson, are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, the minutes will stand as published. Any board member comments at this time? Hearing none, we will get right into our first presentation. Dr. Cuppet, take it away.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. Today we have two presentations. We have one related to science updates. This is part of our regular updates to the C&I committee about what's happening in various content areas. And we also have career and technical education updates. And as we all know, there's a lot going on in CTE. So we're going to start with science. Colleen Beal, it will be, she already did share the slides. Colleen Beal is our secondary science curriculum specialist, and she'll be presenting with Chris Horn, who is our elementary curriculum specialist for science. So I'm going to turn it over to Colleen at this time.
Thanks, Dr. Cuppet. Good morning, everyone. So, like all areas, secondary science has been busy, and some highlights of the secondary science is it's been great to have students back in the classroom, back in the labs, and in talking with teachers, the content gaps seem a little smaller than what they were anticipating, but the skill gaps are a little larger, and they've been really focusing on the hands-on activities, the techniques, the safety, as we're transitioning back to the labs. Priority standards have been identified to guide teachers in all of our Maryland State Science Standards aligned courses. Our teachers are always making decisions daily. This helped unify the focus. And over the summer, our Schoology blueprints were updated and enhanced to include a lot of retrieval practice as well as hands-on activities in talking to our teachers. They're very appreciative. They're accessing the resources, and we're very appreciative of their help over the summer to create these. We've been offering professional learning communities. We've been doing this for several years, and we're continuing. Our attendance is a little lower, but we have a nice group. It is after school, it's optional, it's paid, and they get together and collaborate across schools, and it has been terrific. We've had a couple this year. And we're also changing the way we do department chair meetings. We're doing them for an hour and about once a month, twice a month. Not twice a month, once a month or every other month. And we have been doing it as a hybrid. They RSVP and let us know if they would like to. We have a room available at the Staff Development Center. And they also can join in by virtual. So it is interesting. It'll be interesting to see also as we go through the winter if they're opting more to do all virtual. So that has been good also. And I'm also very excited about the next bullet. The outdoor school is back and in the field with our students. They just wrapped up a very successful 6th grade fall season where they serviced about half of our schools, and they just started 5th grade this week, and that has been started up, and they've been very flexible and terrific, and we've been getting a lot of great feedback. Secondary science assessment, just wanted to keep you up to date on that. Our main change is with at the high school level, the Maryland Integrated Science Assessment, the Misa. The Misa that you might remember for high school, the integrated where they were assessing all the content, The last administration of that occurred with the early testing. We're now moving into the life science Misa for high school, where it's assessing just the life science content standards. And we're field testing that this year. They'll be setting this standards and cut scores and everything this summer. Next year, so the freshmen coming in, they will be the first class that will have the life science Misa as a graduation requirement as passing it. I mean, everyone has to sit for the Misa right now, and that's been what has been happening for the past couple of years. But we will have cut scores, and it will also be an end of course. It'll count as 20%, and of course assessment, and all of those details are still being worked out with the state, but it'll be the life science Misa. Another change is that the language in COMAR has been updated. It has clarified what constitutes 3 lab sciences in the spirit of all standards, all students, and making sure that all of our students receive a well-rounded education. Students need to receive a credit in life science, physical science, and earth space science. And we have a course sequence that satisfies all of that. So as long as our students are following our recommended course sequence, it is very easy for them to meet that new updated COMAR language. The grade 8 Misa stays the same and is continuing to assess the middle school band of the Maryland State Science Standards. And lastly, our local benchmarks remain optional this year, and a few schools are accessing that. So that's just the highlights of secondary science.
Thank you, Colleen. So the next section will be Dr. Horn with elementary science.
Hello, everyone. Nice job, Colleen. Thank you. And so just like Colleen did, I'm going to just hit some highlights from elementary, and then we'll open the floor to questions for you. Is that right, Dr. Cuppet? Is that how we're going to do it? Okay,
unless there were questions right now about secondary, we could probably go ahead and knock those out before we move on. Any questions about secondary science?
Thank you. I thought that made sense too. Then we can keep Ms. Beal and then she can kind of go. Mr. Johnson, I think you're still maybe having some troubles with your sound. So if you need to chat or if you can say them, if you have any questions.
I am muted because I had a question.
Okay.
My sound is good. Thank you, Colleen, for your presentation. Great to see you. And thank you for your service during this time. I wanted to ask about the MISA for life science. A couple questions. Are we going to well, just a couple questions. One, is it offered online or paper or both? And then are we going to now then require our freshmen to take biology? And actually, well, before that question, what year is it required to take? I know the freshmen come in and have to take it to pass. Well, what year do they take it in? 10th grade year or freshman year?
Oh, great questions. So with the MISA, it is mostly online. There are a little bit of paper per accommodations, things like that, but it's mostly an online delivery. And the high school life science MISA, the LEAs decide when to administer it. We were administering the MISA in 10th grade, and we are continuing to administer the life science MISA mostly in 10th grade. We administer it at the end of biology. We're going to continue to recommend that students take as their first course physics of Earth and space and or algebra-based physics as their first course, and then biology as their second course. Some students will double up and take that their freshman year, but most, when they do double up and take science, they'll double up and take biology and chemistry their 10th grade year. But we find that our students are more successful in the past when they take their state high school science assessment their 10th grade rather than their 9th grade.
Okay, excellent. And then just with that coming up, with this right here, and what's coming down the pike and what we have currently. I know we have a great program functioning where we have students going to early college at FCC. Do you see like us having to like manipulate things, or do you see like, kind of like a backlog coming up? These required tests for these students, or whether they have to just come back and sit for it, you know, at school and leave FCC for a day? How's that going to work out for them?
Great question. I've been working with Diana Sung with early college, and I can touch base with her again. But the way we had it in with them accessing it, it didn't seem to be an issue with them being able to take the Misa and their because they have to have certain courses as prereqs before they start with their early college, and it worked out pretty fine. But I'll make sure that I connect with her.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and hope Alex is doing well.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah.
Ms. Johnson, there you go.
Perhaps this is just more education for me. Thank you so much for your presentation. My familiarity with the outdoor school was like the 5th and 6th grade program. I see it here in the secondary presentation. Can you please just enlighten me on what we're doing with respect to outdoor school?
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure. So I supervise outdoor school, and you are correct that it serves 5th grade and 6th grade. And in 5th grade, they focus more on geology, and they do a little bit of environmental science and in watershed, but in 6th grade, they do even more, and we focus on our water units, and they're of course, I'm blanking right now on the other unit, but it's our environmental studies. We do deer transects, and it's in normal years. But we have, they do 2 days in 5th grade and two days in 6th grade. It is a day program, and our outdoor school, we have a small staff. They're science teachers, and they also drive the outdoor school buses. So they go to the school, pick up the kids with their teacher, and then take them out into the field. And I would welcome you anytime that you would like to spend a day with the outdoor school. I would be happy to help you experience that, because it is amazing.
Well, I would certainly love to, and we will definitely make a plan for that to happen. So I guess why does it fall under secondary science curriculum with outdoor schools back in the field with students?
Well, because I supervise the outdoor school, so that's why it falls under me. That's why it falls under me.
Okay.
And oh, sorry, because
go ahead.
I could tell you more. I could tell you like where we go and everything like that, but I will. I'll stop.
Yeah, I was just wondering, organizationally and logically, why that was showing up under the secondary, and now it makes sense since you're the supervisor for that, or falls under you. And so with the this next are we doing anything with dual enrollment? I know you talked about early college and doing the Misa exam. Like, what relationships do we have going on with dual enrollment? At what point, like, are we trying to prep students so that they can perhaps, well, I don't know if are we doing any dual enrollment science, Dr. Cuppett? I don't know. I'm more familiar with our general education courses, non-science.
Yeah. Colleen, are you familiar with the programming we're doing? Yeah.
I am. So in most of our schools, we offer BSc 125, which is, many of us would know that as Bio 101, but in the last couple of years, the numbers have changed. So that is our introductory biology course. So that is at most of our high schools right now. And also Chem 101 is at many of our high schools too. So those are our two leading dual enrollment courses.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're quite welcome.
And Okay. I love the idea. I've been on the 5th grade outdoor field trip many times, but I will definitely do the 6th grade. And I loved the 5th grade one. That was such a great trip. Let's see. And lost track of time. When we were hybrid, so last spring, I was touring a school and I saw lab partners, one in school, one at home, working. And I just thought that was so creative of the teachers to have come up. I mean, it worked great. And then when the other students, when they were in on their day, they would take the other role. So many students were getting hands-on, but yet working with a partner who wasn't there with them. So it was really very interesting. And I suspect that that's pretty common in the scientific world, that now they're working with people around the world remotely. So I thought that was actually very real world, but still hands-on. I do have a question. I preface this with, as some people have heard many times, my father is a retired nuclear physicist. So I came from a scientific family where I was a very rebellious teenager. I was a conscientious objector to dissecting in 10th grade biology and had to take an F at that time. I was ahead of my time. Got to Maryland, where I do have a Bachelor of Science because that's what they require. Did not do well in zoology or botany, but then got an A in astronomy. And so found out that as much as I was rebelling against my father, my brain just worked better with the physical sciences, not the life sciences. And so, you know, I know we want kids to have a well-rounded education and be exposed to all of it, but the assessing, just thinking of how people are different, there's no thought to letting you just take like one of the science assessments, correct? Everybody has to take the life science Misa, but do you think it would ever move to that where, hey, you could pick and choose?
Great question. And that is where we were. So they were assessing all the areas, just the entire grade band, the way they do in 5th grade and 8th grade. And then the state moved away from that and back to just the biology. There has been talk over the years of, back when we were doing the HSA, of having multiple, that sort of thing. But the state always goes back to assessing one area.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I guess maybe something that I'll kind of maybe keep an eye on and just see, you know, if they would ever move to that. Understand, you hear science, but then when you realize how different the different branches are, you know, my father called chemistry cooking class. He had no interest. He's still banned from the kitchen at the age of 90. So, you know, even a scientist looking at one branch or another, they're very different. And I don't think I was always aware of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we ready for Dr. Horn at this point? All right, Chris, you're up.
All right, great. Just to address the issue with the outdoor school, I supervise the Earth and Space Science Lab and also the Living Materials Center, which crosses over into secondary. But so it's kind of a trade. Colleen gets the outdoor school and I have the Earth and Space Science Lab and Living Materials Center. So the theme for elementary has been and will continue to be supporting the very changing needs of teachers over the course of the last 18 months, 2 years. It's been quite a challenge to navigate. And so a part of that is the constant changing and updating of these Schoology blueprint courses that we have for each grade level, pre-K through 5. And that's been the work of our curriculum writers this past summer. And the past 2 summers actually have been limited teams with virtual workshops. So that's been a challenge as well. And that work is ongoing, and we continue to try to update those blueprint courses for the upcoming units as we go. And in addition to that, we have Curriculum Now resources on the web, which gives another look at or a different option for teachers to access resources and things they've used in the past. And along with the Curriculum Now are ways for them to order organisms and other materials from the Living Materials Center, which is housed at the Earth and Space Science Lab. So to the best of our ability with all these challenges, we've been trying to support our teachers through those resources and keeping the links alive through lots of challenges like the elimination of the use of YouTube at the elementary level for students, and unless the teacher's directing that, and also Google updates, which means that we have lots of broken links. So it's been interesting, challenging, and we're doing the best we can to keep up with our teachers. And so I want to mention here the STEM Leader Program, which is an opportunity for us to get together with leaders, liaisons from each of the schools. And we did that during the pandemic with some after-school virtual meetings. This fall, we held our first meeting of the year after school, optional, and it was face-to-face at the Earth and Space Science Lab. Honestly, we were making guesses about how many people would come because we didn't ask ahead of time. We just thought we'll just invite people. And I thought we'd have maybe 5 people, and we had almost 30 show up. And when I went into the room to ask them to think about sort of a warm-up activity that we were going to do while we were waiting for everyone to arrive, and they looked at me like, no, we want to interact with our colleagues. And they were very excited to be together. It was a very successful meeting. So we're really pleased with that response from our STEM leaders. They are an important part of what we do to stay connected to the schools, and they've embraced it, and they're on board this year. And I guess, Colleen, are you doing my slides for me? Thanks. So another aspect of what we've been working on is the ongoing work of developing resources that are aligned to standards-based learning and grading. This project's been on again, off again, on again. And we've been working hard on this, but what I want to say is that we have been a standards-based organization for many decades. So our curriculum at elementary and in secondary, of course, is focused on and built on the standards we're given from the state, which are national standards. So this work is just really us fine-tuning what we have available for teachers to see, to make stronger connections to the standards. But all of our lessons and resources are geared toward and guiding towards those standards. But that work right now is semi on hold, but we're still behind the scenes doing that and making our curriculum maps more standards friendly than they already are. Just wanted to make a quick mention to the Great Frederick Fair field trip, because after a pause from the pandemic this September, we were able to have over 1,000 students back at the fairgrounds from multiple schools. We invited 5th grade only. It was sort of a slow return. Traditionally, we have invited any grade level to sign up. It's an optional field trip. We also supported schools by sending kits to the schools for them to do in-school activities related to the fair and to the educational aspects of the fair, of course. The next bullet here is says office hours on request. We've, throughout the pandemic, had regular office hours and were available to teachers. But we found that it's easier just to customize that support by just being available whenever they ask and they come online. Lots of the things we were able to address just by email, but sometimes they want to meet as a team. And so we just have that as an open option. All right, next slide there. So I just built this section just to focus particularly on the Earth and Space Science Lab, since a lot of things have been happening there. During the time of the pandemic, we were very fortunate to get a new digital projector, which the facility opened in 2009 with a new system, and it had a 7 to 10 year lifespan. So it was beyond expiration date when we got our new projector, and it's been a great blessing and gives many more options for instruction for students that come to the Earth and Space Science Lab. So it's up and running. Also, during the time of the pandemic closures, we received a lot of really cool displays, space science displays from the Maryland Science Center, and had those upgraded, and they are now part of the curriculum, especially for 5th grade when they come to visit the ESSL. Karen, you were at the Arbor Day this past spring. It was although I'm looking back to last school year, the end of April, you and David were able to come and see face to face. It was really great to have a real event in the spring, wasn't it? And we were able to hold that at the Arboretum on the grounds of Lincoln Elementary, right next to the Earth and Space Science Lab. Then this past summer, we were open again for the first time in over a year, and had at least 1,300 people come through the ESSL for summer matinee shows. That was exciting. And then even more exciting, this fall we're open for students. And there have been challenges, of course, and difficulties with buses, and especially afternoon buses. But we're getting to see students, and it's been really fun and exciting to see students in there every day. And then in the fall, starting in October, we have our evening shows at the Earth and Space Science Lab for the community. They have been well received. Last night we had 2 sellout shows for a Christmas show. It's just really fun to see people in there. We had Homewood of Frederick there with 20 senior citizens, and they were just thrilled to be there and explore the facility again, and thankful that we're open again. That covers all the highlights, and I know you may have some questions, and you could ask me questions, and Colleen's still there because she's the one doing the slides. So if you want to go back and ask Colleen as well.
Ms. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, any questions?
So thank you for presenting, and I wanted to also give you kudos on the ESSL laboratory. It's a wonderful facility. I'm glad the community is using it again.
Thank you.
I have a feeling it was a change of class, so I thought I heard a bell schedule. So Ms. Johnson, if you want to jump in till he can come back.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't know. Is it still possible to get tickets to the Christmas Star program at the ESSL?
Yeah, I think so. We have a show Thursday night, and I think the 6 o'clock sold out. But then next week we have tickets still available. Sure. Yeah, please come out.
Yeah, you can go online. Ms. Johnson, you can go online and get your tickets.
Okay. I was looking at it earlier this week, and I saw that it said, get your ticket now before they sell out. And
yeah,
so we've been kind of busy.
So especially now, people are just excited to come back, and it's been a popular show. This is actually the 59th year. 2022 represents the 60th year of the ESSL, and in Christmas 1962, we had this same show, the Christmas Star show in 1962. So we've had a version of that show for now 59 years.
And sorry to cut in, Ms. Johnson, but who were the teachers that did teacher that did the first show?
Gosh, now I'm blanking. Help me out, Colleen. Ned Kearns.
Okay, all right.
Ned Kearns. So Ned invented the glow in the dark hallway, which was at the original facility, and we modeled that to the best of our ability in the new facility. It's kind of a glow in the dark wall, not a hall, but so Ned passed away, I think 2019, and so we have a special display with a little description of Ned in the wall in the planetarium, as well as a section of the original glow in the dark wall cut out and framed. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was amazing what they all did back at the old North Fred or South Fred, sorry, building with the Essel. I don't know. I seem to be the only one that calls it the Essel, but I'm told there are others. It's just always been, I mean, with 2 basic classrooms and a glow hall and planetarium, it was still amazing what they accomplished there. And of course, the new facility, which isn't so new anymore, has just been you know, we call it a gem of the system, and it absolutely is. So I'll let you finish, Ms. Johnson. Sorry.
No, I didn't have anything further. I just appreciate everyone's tremendous efforts to deliver quality education to our children.
Thank you.
I had one other question. I think when Colleen was talking, you talked about retrieval, teachers working on the retrieval. Is that where mind-brain education comes into the science and those skills?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. good. Trying to pick up on those words a little bit. I was able to attend one of the trainings, and it was really interesting. And I don't know if Mr. Johnson, I guess maybe he got his questions answered, but I know Dr. Horn, we go back a long way, and so a lot of good memories coming up of curriculum writing and just funny stories. Okay, and Ms. Johnson would like to ask another question.
Yeah, it's just one more. I'm kind of thinking broadly, and in particular, a discussion we'll be having later tonight at our board meeting with respect to the Sibyllsville Environmental School. What kind of collaboration will happen between the good work that we're doing here and their curriculum? So I've never been part of a charter school getting off the ground, and I just would like to know what resources we have or will make available.
Dr. Cuppet, do you want to address that particularly?
Yeah, so the assumption would be that they would, right now, I believe our current charter schools can access the ESSL if they would like. So there wouldn't be any change for that for them. They'd be able to come into that programming. The one challenge we're running into right now is that this applies both to our outdoor school programming and our ESSL, is that there are only so many days that we can have students there. And as the number of students across the district has increased over the years, that creates more classes mean more slots. So we're really basically fitting kids in with a shoehorn right now into both of these programs. So I don't know if there would be a lot of additional time, but for staff to do anything different with the charter school. And as the charter school, I think, further defines their program, we might have more clarity associated with that.
If I'm not wrong, the onus would kind of be on the charter school to reach out for help rather than FCPS moving in to tell them what to do. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think that would be correct. But then the tough thing is the question is there adequate time to actually provide any additional help? And we'd have to kind of see what is the nature of the help they're looking for, how much time commitment would it be? Are they merely looking for identification of resources or things like that? So it will ultimately depend on what the charter school itself needs and what they articulate as to what we might be able to help them with.
And Dr. Cuppet's absolutely correct. We do support them at the Earth and Space Science Lab. And then over the years, particularly the Montessori's, schools have reached out to me over the years, and I've gone over and supported them how I can and when I can, with resources and ideas and things like that. So it's just as he described, it's more about their interest in collaborating. We also invite them to our STEM leader meetings, so they have access to those meetings and to that group as a group that they can collaborate with and learn from. So over the years, it's been real open and positive with charters, but the charters individually vary in how they access and utilize our support.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I don't hear anything else from Mr. J. No notes. Okay. So I think that's all at this time.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
very much. It was a great meeting with you all.
Yep. Have a great day. All right. So we're going to shift over to career and technical education, and Dr. Christine Pearl and Mr. Norm McGackey. Christine is our supervisor of career and technical education, and Norm serves as a coordinator. And as I mentioned or alluded to earlier, there's a lot going on in CTE, and we don't expect that to change a whole lot with the blueprint. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they can give you an update on where we are. And this actually might be one of the content areas that will need to come back a little more frequently as things progress with the rollout of the blueprint. So Christine, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, and can everyone hear me? Yes, I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
We can see the slides as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so as Dr. Cuppet shared, we are going to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that we've been working on, primarily related to, let me move the slide 1 second. Okay, of course, now my screen is not working. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I'm at the SDC, and I thought it would be a little more quiet here than in my cube, but it's a new technology setup, so pardon me. All right, so our focus today will be on primarily aspirational goal 1, which is equipping every student to be an empowered learner, and that is certainly something that we feel quite strongly about. So today we're going to focus on the overview of CTE. It's always good to get a reminder of what CTE encompasses, as well as many of the legislation and regulation changes that are certainly guiding our work, and some of the strategies to meet those changes, and then a brief overview of the process we're using in our equitable access professional learning. So again, as an overview of CTE, Career and Technical Education often gets confused with CTC, the Career and Tech Center. And in fact, CTE includes 8 courses at the middle school and 16 programs of study that we offer in our comprehensive high schools, some of which are included on this slide. And I'll give you a second just to take a look before I move to the next slide. And here are the rest of our programs at our comprehensive high schools. In addition, we have 23 programs of study at the Career and Technical or Technology Center. I do want to point out, because you were asking about dual enrollment for science, I've honestly lost track, but I know that we have over 20 different dual enrollment course options within CTE, and we're continuing to look at a new option for next year. So that is certainly an area where we have been quite prolific in providing new opportunities for students. Now, in CTE, many people don't realize that on this particular slide, it shows that of the 6,646 students that last year participated in CTE, 860 were at the Career and Tech Center, and 5,786 were at our comprehensive high schools. So again, CTE is much bigger, I think, than some people realize. And additionally, this data point does not include the students that take the required courses for graduation, such as this year Foundations of Technology, and all those courses. And it also doesn't include our elective enrollment numbers. So this is only our CTE programs of study. So starting next year, there are several COMAR regulations that impact CTE, including the change from the tech ed requirement to the computer science or engineering graduation requirement. Next year in FCPS, our students will have the opportunity to take Foundations of Computer Science, the new Engineering Design and Applications course that you approved last month, or the Intro to Engineering Design course at our 3 Project Lead the Way schools. I think the 2 biggest pieces of legislation, which everyone is well aware of, that impact CTE include the Maryland Blueprint and the federal Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, which is better known as Perkins. Both of these pieces of legislation refer to CTE as a sequence of courses with the intent to prepare students in career development as lifelong learners and ready to pursue careers in high skill, high wage, and in-demand industries. And as I shared at the board meeting 2 weeks ago, the sequential focus to programs of studies is really the impetus behind the evaluation of all of our elective courses, to try to determine if there is alignment to our approved program of study, or to the Maryland approved program of study. So why is this important? Well, for one, the More Jobs for Marylanders Act has the expectation that 45% of all graduates will either finish a CTE completer, earn an industry certification, or complete a youth apprenticeship by 2025. Over the past few years, our data has hovered around 22 to 24% of that goal. So we know we have a long way to go, and we know there'll be more expectations tied to the Maryland Blueprint once the CTE committee and the CTE skills committee are in place later this year. So we know our job in central office is we have to be proactive in our strategies to move that needle to meet those goals. So one strategy we've been employing is taking a very close look at all of our current program of studies to ensure that we're meeting that definition of high wage, high skill, and in demand. We've made sure that we have incorporated meaningful state-approved industry certifications within those pathways. And more recently, as I mentioned, we've been examining our elective courses, such as the independent living, so that we can find alignment in pathways. We truly believe that in order to meet the state goals that will be overseen by the CTE committee, that we do have to make changes over the next couple of years to our existing courses and change that prevailing mindset that moves people viewing CTE as an elective to a program of study that prepares students. So one area we're going to highlight that Norm has done some outstanding work over the last 2 years to improve our business ed program of study so that we meet the new expectations. So he will briefly share some of the strategies that he has employed in reorganizing this course or this program.
Yeah. Thank you, Christine. And these courses, of course, you guys have all approved, and we've spent about a year now. It's been about a year working and developing these courses. And the major reason really was providing equitable access to all pathways to all students, because we were working with counselors yesterday, and the numbers of completers in this pathway were just not up to standards, and we knew things had to change. And it was really as a result of it wasn't equitable, specifically in the advanced business management, accounting, but we also added a new pathway, principles of marketing. And now students are able to get an industry certification exam right in the comprehensive high schools. So they're able to take, after that third course, after they take the first 2 courses and they take that third course, they can take an industry certification, business industry certification from ASK certification. And then we still will have the Office Systems Management 2. They'll be taking the Microsoft Office certifications. But we knew that pathway needed updated, because think of that business administration pathway. Think of the responsibilities of a secretary or an administrator today compared to 10 years ago. And so there's so much more that they need to know. And so we've improved that pathway as well. And we've updated the instructor and student curriculum. We actually took curriculum provided by the state and had a team of 15 teachers over the last year test and model and implement. And it's really in full implementation right now in our school system. And there's some great success out there with it. So we're really pleased in the direction that we're headed in the business, because we know 20% of the students in college graduate in a business with a business degree. So now counselors can really sit down and hone in and hopefully focus those students to not just choose a course, but a pathway, so they're really prepared when they go to college.
And I want to share that work was done through an innovation grant that we received from MSDE. And to Norm's credit, he was able to get those 15 teachers together last year through the pandemic, and they enthusiastically wanted to participate in curriculum writing, which we know, during what we have been enduring over the past year, that is no small feat. So kudos to Norm and his leadership for really moving that program ahead. Now, I do want to also share that we have additional programs that we are focused on currently. Excuse me. Agriculture. We're working with the agriculture teachers. We have 3 programs of study that fall within agriculture, and we've recently added industry certifications to those pathways. We're piloting those industry certifications for the state, and we fully anticipate, as we're collecting our data right now, that the state will adopt those for inclusion in their approved industry certifications starting next year. Career research and development, we continue to focus on. And of course, part of the alignment to that was the new career and college prep course that we added. Child development, we're currently working on a dual enrollment program with FCC that we intend to offer for next year. And then lastly, we've continued our focus with youth apprenticeship in an attempt to build that program. So the last thing I would like to share is another area of focus for us this year in the form of professional development surrounding equitable access. So we know our teachers are incredibly busy, and deciphering data can be very overwhelming. So we've used MSDE data as well as FCPS data to create an equity data report card by career pathway. And we're working with our department chairs to decipher the data. But where we're most excited is the work that we're doing at the Careertech Center to provide sustained professional development that focuses on equity and access. Through a series of facilitated sessions that we coordinated with Mike Concepcion to be part of his school's monthly professional development, we're guiding teachers through this 4-part data analysis process. Because we knew in order to make any changes, we needed to work together. We needed to explore where we have discrepancies in the data and analyze why we think those discrepancies are there. So this afternoon, we conclude our data analysis with a meeting where we will be discussing the root causes and then brainstorming action strategies that we will put into next year's Perkins budget to improve, again, equity and access for CTE and CTC students. So I know we sent a lot of information to you very quickly, and that is just an overview of the many, many things that we are doing within CTE. And Dr. Cuppett.
Yeah, before we go to questions, I did want to reiterate one thing to our members of the board here, is that as we continue to vector resources and staffing to the goal of the More Jobs for Marylanders Act, which is 45% of our students would either have that completer or they'd have an industry certification or an internship or a apprenticeship, that we have a lot of courses that are in our core. We have some courses in our course catalog that are not tied to any pathway, and they're simply electives, sometimes referred to as orphan electives out there. For us, it doesn't seem to make sense to continue to enroll students in orphan electives if they don't lead to a pathway. And that's where the state is being very clear with us about the moving forward to programs of study. And so when we occasionally, every year, we will bring to the board sometimes courses that we're going to discontinue. Those discontinuances might be in the context of what we're trying to explain today. And you could conceivably get an email concern from a teacher that they think this course should still be offered, or a school guidance counselor, who knows what. But when we bring those to you, we'll contextualize this again in that idea of moving towards the vision to get 45% of students in those 3 areas. So that's of all the things, all the great work that's occurring right now in CTE, that is the one that we're seeing the biggest impact on what happens day to day in schools. And so we just want to alert you to that, because that'll probably be a continuing conversation that you might hear some differing views and opinions on as we proceed. Thank you.
And if I can just interject, believe me, one thing that we do consider is the impact on teachers. And so in particular, again, I'm referencing independent living because you all are familiar with that. But we ensured that anyone would be eligible to teach the new course. We don't want to displace any teachers, certainly not now, but never really. So we are always trying to do our best by teachers as well as meet the state requirements.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's important to know. And I will try to remember to make that point when giving the CNI report this evening, that's an important point going forward. I know Mr. Johnson has to leave us in about 10 minutes. So Mr. Johnson, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. I also had my hand up too. I am super excited about this. I think the state legislature, I want to thank them for their work in state Congress. I think this right here was a phenomenal decision. I'm gassed about this. When I look at this though, I see what we're doing with marketing. I see what we're doing with business. I think it's good to bring it into focus. But I really want to, this is our opportunity to really produce pathways where our kids, I'm keeping from getting too emotional about this, because we can really make sure that we don't have kids leave us hungry. And I mean that in the deepest sense, because there's some kids who leave us and they don't have a covering when they leave. When they leave us, they're out to the world. And we can make sure that no kid leaves us and can't feed themselves. CTE for me is just, it's exciting, it's fun, but also it's fundamental. We can really, literally protect children's lives beyond school. So I am super excited about us having functional, directed classes that can give them something where they can go, I have this skill, I can eat. It's just, I can't stress that enough. And so super excited about that. I wanted to ask about, are there any plans in place? I know teachers to be trained to find them, but I want to see mobile development as a course offering, and also data analysts. Because right now big data is everything, and mobile development, everything's designed with mobile first. And those are two low-hanging fruits that are very high-paying jobs that are just in supreme demand. You punch either one of those two in the Indeed.org, you get over 100,000 open positions right now. And I have a desire for cryptocurrency information, but that's down the line and not really directable. But right now, data analysts and mobile development are open, low-hanging fruit we can get our kids into. So I know you got a lot on your plate. You've done amazing work here. I can tell there's a lot of work here you've done, and I'm adding more to your plate, I know. But this is a good add. So I just want to put on your radar mobile development and data analysts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. J. Appreciate that.
Ms. Johnson?
Yeah, I think it never amazes me how much Mr. Johnson and I think alike in terms of our questions, because I was going to express something similar in terms of computing related offerings. I know having just had our own program advisory committee meeting at FCC, it seems like the Cisco certifications and Security Plus are going, not particularly with Cisco, not being as popular, but being replaced with things like curriculum or skills related to big data, data science, data mining. And we haven't heard so much about cryptocurrencies, but obviously that's a huge deal right now. And NFTs and then what else? Oh, mobile app development. So what are we doing to kind of make sure we're staying not ahead of the curve, but at least riding on the wave?
So Norm is actually presenting on computer science tonight at the board meeting. So that is his area of expertise. But
yeah,
Norm,
don't put me on on display there tonight. But I will tell you that we have app development in our computer science course in middle school. That's one of the units. Data science has been really discussed a lot. In fact, MSDE has some type of new pathway. The key is marketing, because how do you tell until we are able to market, and how are you able to encourage a 9th or 10th grader to say, hey, go in this area? Right now we can sell cybersecurity. We can sell sort of that pathway, but that's what, and even Hood, I work with Hood, FCC, I was just on that committee last week, their PAC meeting. So yeah, everybody realizes that, but how do you get kids enrolled in that? And with the fintech, the financial literacy technology and the cryptos and technology, we have really enhanced our financial literacy in the first 2 courses of the business pathway to include the stock market to include marketplaces to it's much more. Financial literacy is much different than it was 10 years ago. So when we rewrote these business courses, we rewrote our financial literacy in those first two courses, which all students will take in those pathways. And we really encourage, if you have a student that really wants financial literacy, take one of those first two business courses. You know, so hope that helps answer the question a little bit. Kevin, you raised your hand. Kevin's frozen.
Yes, yeah, I'm here. Normally Miss Yoho calls on people, but thanks, Norm, for bouncing it to me.
Sorry.
That's all right. I was at a board meeting one time and somebody raised their hand and I called on them instead of Mr. Young. And then I was like, well, I need to stop doing that. So, and one of the things, so first, Mr. J, I appreciate your enthusiasm for career and technical education. And I agree with you that and I think this is the reason that the more jobs for Marylanders Act is really trying to get the heart of what you're trying to say is why can't students walk right out of high school and move into high skill, high wage? What's the third one, Christine?
High skill, high wage, in demand.
High skill, high wage, in demand careers. So it's very exciting for us. I know Christine and Norma are very excited to hear that we have board members who are very much in alignment with this approach. And I agree with it wholeheartedly. They've even done research studies on students who move into high demand, high wage jobs in their, when they turn 18, when they graduate from high school, and how having 4 years of work prior to their colleagues, entering the workforce after college, that their long-term earnings can be comparable to their peers who came out of college. And so I think it's important for board members to understand that, first of all, if we're going to expand and add something, it has to be a program of study. We have to get, approval from MSDE to move forward. And then there's usually a combination of factors that need to occur. Sometimes it's a significant amount of startup costs, and we can often capture that money through our grant process like we did with our physical therapy program. Sometimes we need a highly qualified staff member to teach that, and there are often training funds that are available through the grants. If it's going to be at CTC, there's always a space requirement associated with that. If you put it into your comprehensive high school, there's going to be an opportunity cost. So a teacher that has been teaching a number of courses, if we have new courses available, enrollment might drop here, and then we might be able to reallocate that personnel to teach other courses. But it's not always very neat and orderly in a school because, remember, a lot of our courses, as Norm was saying, it's tied to enrollment. So those are some of the things that we have to balance. Certainly, if it seems like this is an area the board would like us to explore more, we can have Dr. Pearl and Mr. McGackie kind of look into where is the state with programs to study, and be happy to share some additional information with you once we find out what's there. So thank you for the support. We really do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I didn't. Thank you very much, everybody.
I'm writing down Mr. McGackie took over the meeting. No, I'm kidding. and kudos to you, Dr. Cuppett. I have not heard opportunity cost since I taught it in 3rd grade social studies, and that was before 2005. So anyway, it's like, do people really use opportunity cost in real life? I was never sure. So there we go. And I know we're still doing pretty well on time, but Mr. Johnson, if you have to pop out, and you can just say bye in the chat room, and we'll see you this evening or this afternoon.
Thank you all. See you tonight.
All right. Bye-bye. And so I suddenly realized that while I know parts of this, and I knew this as a parent, I don't really know, and this may be too lengthy a thing, but if you can do kind of concise explanation of how students get into the Careertech Center, what is the application and acceptance, and you talked about equity, professional development, and then putting that in how we look at the programs. Are there requirements for making sure that we have our demographics so numbers and all that. It is equitable getting into the Careertech Center.
So Kevin, do you want me to take that? Dr. Cuppett, sorry. So yes, so part of our Perkins requirements require us to look at equitable access, and more we are able to get data from them down to the subgroup level, to the student level, by program areas, by school. And so the data that creating the equity report card is really helping us to look at our data in program areas compared to all CTE students and then compared to all FCPS. So part of the discussions that we're having in our professional development is related to race, also gender, and we are just starting to really also get data in performance. So we intend to continue to dig deeper. One of the things that we discovered is, for the most part, we would consider ourselves, I guess for the most part, we are within a 5 to 10% discrepancy within race, which we consider pretty good. Now, there are a few areas where the discrepancies are a little greater than 10%, but typically when you start digging into the story, there's a reason behind that. However, just having that knowledge and allowing us to have open conversations is really helping people to understand maybe what strategies we can develop to make sure that we are providing access to everyone. So the data, for the most part, really looks good. Where we have a greater challenge is by gender. So if, for instance, it's very difficult to ask males to participate in cosmetology or females to participate in automotive. But those are some areas where we really are working on some strategies. We have a subgroup that's working on women in construction. So trying to really eliminate barriers for genders for our CTE programs of study.
And then so to clarify, when Christine was sharing that data, what we try to do is to make sure that, for instance, in a particular program study, that the percentage of students who are enrolled is reflective of our demographics, Karen. And I think that's what you were getting to. So if we have, 13% African-American students within career and technical education programming, that within our programs of study, that appears to be the case as well. One area that Dr. Pearl mentioned, like when we dig deep, you actually see. So we're actually, I think it's overrepresented in Hispanic and African-American in culinary, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And part of that is because we have that culinary program at Frederick High, which that beautiful kitchen, as Christine says, who would not want to take a class in there? And so that demographic has a higher percentage of students who are African-American or Hispanic. And so it's logical that that would show a higher representation if that same program was at one of our other schools. So I want to credit the CTE team for doing that. And then Christine, Karen asked too a little bit about how do we get, what's the application process for CTE itself?
Two-part question, yes.
Yep.
So there is a shadowing process. So students have to shadow. And so they apply or they sign up to do that through their counselors. And then that's coordinated with our counselor at CTC. And students shadow the programs. They are now shadowing 2 programs because sometimes students may not be able to get in their first program of choice, or sometimes they may get there and say, oh, this isn't really what I thought it was. By having that second opportunity, it kind of opens their eyes to other opportunities. And some students actually come back to shadow multiple programs. So once they shadow, then they apply. And of course, some students, decide this is not for me. But then they apply, and through the application process, they look at several data points. The student has to kind of have an interview and say why they're interested in going there. And of course, a student who says, well, my parents are making me, it's not going to score as high as a student who is genuinely like, this is really what I want to do. I'm really interested in this. They also do look at absentee data because, this is a great gem of a program, and we want to make sure that students are committed to attending this program. Although I will say I do participate in the majority of the faculty meetings at CTC, and throughout last year and the year before, CTC often had the highest attendance rate of all of our high schools. So that's really exciting. I mean, that tells you when a student wants to be there, they're going to come to school. So it's attendance, it's the interview, and I believe that's it. And that's a process that's coordinated by the Careertech Center.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Oh, I guess one other question with that is, do we take a certain number of students per school, or?
No, it's basically open to anyone who is interested. Now, there are some programs that fill up quickly. One area is the Academy of Health Professions, which was part of the reason behind a few years ago adding the physical therapy option. And we're currently exploring some other options for maybe 2 years down the road. But, you know, some are very, very popular. And there are some that still towards the end of the cycle, they reopen shadows because they're not filled. And sometimes that, you know, the number of students that are interested in a year changes year to year. It's not always that everyone, you know, wants to go in this, you know, whatever Cisco. It might be that that kind of ebbs and flows. So for a while, with the economic downturn on construction, we were seeing a decreased number of students applying for that program. Well, those numbers have really skyrocketed. So it's kind of also motivated, I think, by what's going on in the economic, local economic workforce area, as well as parents. And so, you know, they are a huge factor in programs of study that students consider. So that's another thing that we really focus on in our promotions and in our work with our PAC groups, our program advisory committees, is how do we get the word out to parents? And they do offer several evening events for parents in particular areas. So for example, there was recently an evening event for automotive students or people interested in automotive. And Frederick County has a hugely supportive automotive industry that came out. I mean, you name it, every dealer and every shop was there talking about, if your student comes to class and they learn this program and they earn their industry certifications, we can guarantee a job. We have the same thing with welding. So many of our programs have 100% placement rate. So that's part of the message that we're trying to share, is that there are jobs out there. But sometimes, you know, we have to address the barriers as they come, and sometimes it just can be misinformation.
Mr. McGackie, you had something you want to add?
I just wanted to say they had a very successful open house recently too,
yes,
where they had a tremendous amount of people that I don't think they were able to handle last year. So for them to have the same enrollment this year with the year that we had last year really speaks highly of what's going on there, and the word of mouth, you know. So that's, I was worried, you know, what it would be like enrollment this year and stuff, but it really didn't drop off. And I think next year it'll even pick up more. So
I would tend to agree with you. I know I was lucky enough to be able to tour the Careertech Center with when Congressman Trone and Secretary of Labor Walsh came, and they were impressed. I mean, Secretary Walsh kept asking the students if they were seniors, you know, and be like, no, I'm a sophomore. They were just enthusiastic and just could explain what they were doing. I talked to two young ladies in the Project Lead the Way. I can't remember one of the courses. Yes, that was it. And they were explaining to me about DNA, and they're just, I guess they get used to talking to the public because people come there, but just very, very comfortable with explaining what they were doing and not like, go away, don't bother me, you know, kind of thing. So great ambassadors for our school system. And we toured 4 programs, and it was just very impressive. But getting back to the demographics, I know, you know, as we look at the teaching workforce, and everybody's looking for diversity in teaching to mirror the student body. And my understanding is, I keep missing the Teacher Academy students. My understanding is, not surprisingly, it's very heavily weighted female, but also more tends toward white. And so this is where I see, like, if we're going to get a more diverse teaching force, we've got to start home growing, and we have to start getting ideas into our high school students that this is something they want to do. Hopefully the blueprint and the $60,000 starting salary will start to get into people's thinking. We hope, and have it be a respected career. It's a wonderful career, very rewarding, as we all can speak to. But so that's, you know, I hope that we can find ways. And it sounds like with Frederick High, which it is a beautiful kitchen, you know, the mountain went to the molehill and where the students could access. And I think that is a great kind of thinking, because we're always looking, how could we expand the Careertech Center? And those numbers, I had never seen those numbers with how many more students. Of course, I wrote it down. I can't read it because I wrote other things. Okay, so probably what, 6 times, 7 times, yeah, about 7 times the number of students at the Careertech Center taking part through their high school. So that's really quite interesting. I wasn't aware of that. So thank you for sharing that. Did you have anything else, Ms. Johnson, now that I've rambled on there?
No, I'm over here having a sneezing fit. So.
Oh, no.
No, it's very, very exciting. And like Mr. J had said, I don't know if it's because during my day job, I'm across the street from the Career and Technical Center, but I'm a firm believer in preparing students for meaningful careers right after high school, despite, you know, working over at the college. So good work. I just want to know what we as a board can do to help advocate for additional resources.
Yes.
Oh, Karen, that triggered something.
It did. Thank you so much. Because no, I didn't write that one down. But you're right. It did trigger. Yesterday, I virtually attended. Senator Cardin's office had a meeting to explain about earmarks. And I shared some of the information, and so I will pass that along, because there's a whole booklet. And there is one aspect in there, I didn't delve into it too much, but in talking to Joy Schaefer, curriculum, somewhere curriculum comes into this. And so it's something it did, I thought, oh, I'll mention that to them. So thank you for triggering that, Ms. Johnson. I will send you the booklet and my notes. And, you know, because I don't have any specific ideas, but I shared it with the board and a couple of the cabinet members and Dr. Albin, in case something was in their thinking. And it did dawn on me that Careertech and CTE might be a perfect place that an earmark funding might work out well. So
yeah, and I guess I'm along the same lines. I don't want to ask our staff to do additional work unless I'm prepared to do additional work myself to help them be able to accomplish our goals, which, you know, ultimately are going to benefit our students. So, so I'm very mindful of that. Don't want to make an ask unless we're ready to support it. So I guess anything that we should know or suggestions for the best routes or most efficient and best way to advocate is something I'm looking forward to hear more about, if you can share any suggestions.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
That's great suggestions. So I think that's all I had. And getting out nice and early today there, Dr. Cuffett. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you for your continued support as well.
Yeah.
It's easy. You know, you look at in the pandemic, the people that were financially so hit hard, as you said, with the trades. My husband's an electrician, hit very, very hard in the 2008, more in 2009. Took a lot of years to come back, but we made it. I helped him out. And just not the case this time. After about a month of shutdown, April of 2020, he's been working ever since. Amazingly, people, and he does commercial, but churches and theaters doing a lot of renovation while they couldn't have people in. And so he's been consistently busy. And so it's very interesting. but the ones that were hit were the service, restaurant, and those kind of things. And so you look, then it goes back to, college educated people still had a lot more flexibility, working from home, teleworking things. But then when you see, but if we can get them out, out of high school in a certified area, not having to incur the horrible weight of, college debt is just where they never buy a house, or even buying a car becomes difficult. They can't really lead their lives and be as productive as citizens. That's when you go back to, there's got to be something else we can do. And I think CTE really is it.
Yeah, I can just tell you, I was observing a teacher yesterday in a business class in Tuscarora, and it was phenomenal. They were talking about paychecks, and some of the students were being paid under the table. And so I talked about my Social Security benefit, how that impacted, because when I was 16, it's still, when I looked at my Social Security here recently to figure out my retirement, those benefits were in there. And the young man I was talking to, a Hispanic young man, his dad owned a business. He'd been working for him for 5 years, but he was in the personal business, finance and accounting. And he said, I changed my schedule. I'm doing advanced finance and accounting. I'm taking courses at FCC now. He asked me about a day trader. He actually has a stock market account. If you looked at this young man, you would not think that, okay? Not to be, but he had it together, and we had really a good conversation, and it was just so, it was just so exciting being out there and meeting students like that I think he saw exactly what you're talking about. And the teacher is a fairly new teacher, and just relating to those students, and it was wonderful. So yep. It's happening. Yeah.
Very exciting. Very exciting. All right. Well, thank you again. And
thank you, Norm. Thank you,
Norm, this evening. And
yeah.
Just one more item,
right,
Ms. Yoho, just the schedule for upcoming meetings.
Yeah.
So the next time we're here, it'll be World Languages and Media updates. And then for the February 9th meeting, we're going to request that we remove the accelerated learning process from that. We're thinking that organizational development may need a little more time.
Okay.
And we wanted to leave a slot just in case a more timely topic comes up, if that's okay with you all. Absolutely. And I know ALP is still there, has to be, but, has taken a little bit of a backseat right now. So I think that makes a lot of sense. No offense to Miss Bingman, but we'll look forward to seeing her another time. So. All right. Thank you all. All right. Thank you. And the meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, thanks.